We here at the Sports History Network proudly partner with 26 podcasts, all revolving around the history of sports. But did you know that many of our hosts were sports history authors way before they started their shows? It's true. We've got Joe Ziemba, host of When Football Was Football, Joe Zagurski, host of Pro Football in the 1970s, Mark Morthier, host of Yesterday's Sports, Tommy Phillips, host of Lombardi Memories, and Scott Adamson, co-host of From the 55-Yard Line. All these authors have many books for you to choose from. To check them out, go to our website at sportshistorynetwork.com/sportshistorybooks. Pick up your copy today. Soundtrack provided by Kevin MacLeod of filmmusic.io.
This podcast is part of the Sports History Network, your headquarters for the yesteryear of your favorite sport. You can learn more at sportshistorynetwork.com.
Hello again, I'm John Gidley, and welcome to another trip into the football attic. Since a certain holiday is this Thursday, it seemed right to tell a story involving the National Football League on Thanksgiving, one of America's great traditions. Today we're going to talk about a game that put the turkey in Turkey Day, but also left a big impact on the NFL, a 1968 clash between the Philadelphia Eagles and the Detroit Lions. This episode will focus more so on the Eagles and how they sabotaged their own chances for a number one draft pick. First, a little backstory. The Eagles head coach during this era was Joe Kuharich, who had formerly led the Chicago Cardinals, the Washington Redskins, and Notre Dame. After two mediocre seasons, Kuharich's Eagles broke through in 1966 by going 9-5, their first winning season in 5 years. They tied the Cleveland Browns for second place in the NFL's Eastern Division, a game and a half behind the Dallas Cowboys. That offseason, sensing that his team was headed for greatness, Philadelphia owner Jerry Woolman signed Kuharich to a 15-year contract extension. While Eagles fans were certainly optimistic about the future, they were equally skeptical as to whether or not Kuharich deserved such an outrageous extension. Their skepticism was validated beginning in 1967 when Philadelphia turned in an unimpressive 6-7-1 season. The worst, however, was still yet to come. The 1968 Eagles are regarded by many historians as one of the worst teams in NFL history. Their season began with a 30-13 loss at Green Bay and only went downhill from there. As the losses began to pile up, a plane would routinely hover around Eagles games on Sunday afternoons with a simple yet effective banner reading "Joe must go," while the cries for Kuharich's head echoed around Franklin Field. The fans' angst, however, soon turned into what could be described as cynical optimism. Knowing that the Eagles were the worst team in football, Philadelphia realized there was a very good chance of obtaining the first pick in the 1969 draft. This almost certainly meant drafting USC running back O.J. Simpson. For those of you born after 1994, you may be surprised to learn that Simpson was once a football player. In 1968, the Juice racked up 2,091 all-purpose yards with 23 touchdowns, earning him one of the easiest Heisman Trophy selections ever. As Eagles fans began to imagine number 32 running roughshod over the rest of the NFL, their team kept losing and losing and losing. They dropped to 0-11 with a 47-13 blowout loss at Cleveland on November 24th. 4 days later, Philadelphia was set to play in Detroit, the Eagles' first Thanksgiving Day game since 1940. Back when the Lions were really the Lions, they played outside at Tiger Stadium. You're forgiven if you don't remember this era, as Detroit has played their home games indoors since 1975. The weather in the Motor City on November 28, 1968 was suitable for one event and one event only: football. The temperature was 42 degrees. Rain fell steadily throughout the day. The field at Tiger Stadium was resorted to mud, and it was beautiful. The game itself, however, was far from beautiful, even on paper. The Lions entered with 3 wins, 7 losses, and 2 ties, having not won a game since October 13th. As you know, the Eagles came in at 0-11. It's not often that fans hope for their team to lose, but desperate times in Philadelphia called for desperate measures. Even if it meant going 0-14, drafting O.J. Simpson was worth it. Instead, the aforementioned dreams of number 32 in green and white were washed away in the Detroit downpour. Neither team could get a single thing going offensively. Eagles quarterback Norm Snead went 6 for 15 with 55 passing yards. His counterpart Greg Landry went 7 of 15 for 66 yards and 3 interceptions. The only skill player that had a productive day was Philadelphia running back Tom Woodeshick, who ran for 79 yards on 27 carries. Good field positioning as a result of Woodeshick's running and the Lions' 4 turnovers put Eagles kicker Sam Baker in field goal range 4 times, and he split the uprights on each occasion. Thanks in large part to the weather, Philadelphia's defense, routinely one of the worst in football, pitched their first shutout since 1955, beating Detroit 12-0 and entering the win column for the first time in 1968. The slim chance the Eagles had at the number 1 draft pick was gone by the next week when they won yet again, beating the New Orleans Saints 29-17 and infuriating their fans. Just when you want them to lose, they win. Their final game of the season has gone down in history not just in Philadelphia, but in all of sports. It was a day that supposedly solidified Philly fans' reputation as being harsh and unrelenting. At halftime of their otherwise meaningless season finale against the Minnesota Vikings, the fans did indeed boo Santa Claus and throw snowballs at him. This wasn't the whole story, however. The man who was originally scheduled to play Santa in the halftime Christmas pageant at Franklin Field never made it to the stadium because of inclement weather in the Philadelphia area. Needing a quick replacement, Eagles personnel noticed a fan in the stands wearing a Santa suit. The rest of the crowd, recognizing that the festivities were hastily assembled and still stewing over a bitter end to the season, took their anger out on the poor guy by pelting him with snowballs. The Eagles lost to the Vikings 24-17 in what turned out to be Joe Kuharek's final game as head coach. Their 2-12 record was only good for the 3rd pick in the 1969 draft. After the Buffalo Bills obviously took O.J. Simpson with the number 1 pick, and the Atlanta Falcons selected Notre Dame offensive lineman George Coons, Philadelphia used their choice on Purdue running back Leroy Keys. In fairness, Keys totaled over 1,400 scrimmage yards and 15 touchdowns for the Boilermakers in 1968, and finished second in the Heisman voting behind Simpson. His college success never did translate to the pros, however. In his rookie season, Keys ran for only 361 yards and 3 touchdowns. After missing most of the 1970 season due to injury, the Eagles switched him to defense. He was decent as a strong safety, but never noteworthy. Keys' last season in the NFL was 1973, the same year that O.J. Simpson became the first running back ever to run for 2,000 yards. All in all, a bad time to be an Eagles fan, and it all started on that dreary Thanksgiving Day in Detroit. Thanks for joining me for this trip into the football attic, and I hope to see you again next week. In the meantime, check out all the other great podcasts here on the Sports History Network, and follow me on Twitter at JFG Sports. I'm John Gidley, and for all of us at the Sports History Network, have a very happy Thanksgiving.
This podcast is part of the Sports History Network, your headquarters for the yesteryear of your favorite sport. You can learn more at sportshistorynetwork.com.
We at the Sports History Network are thrilled to work with our sponsors and partners. With their support, we are able to produce great content for you. The other cool thing is most of our sponsors and partners offer discounts to pass along to our fans. So if you go to the sportshistorynetwork.com/sponsors page, you'll find Row 1, Royal Retros, Play Classic, Thrive Fantasy, and Mega Seats. All of these offer great discounts. Specifically at Row 1, you can save 15% at the Row 1 Gallery with the code SHN. The Row 1 Gallery includes over 5,200 reproduced sports history prints on a variety of sizes of wood, metal, canvas, acrylic, or poster paper. The Row 1 shop also has thousands of more unique items with retro and historical designs dating back to 1876, including t-shirts and long-sleeve shirts, phone cases and mugs, blankets and pillows, towels, and even shower curtains. With Royal Retros, they're the king of throwbacks. They've got jerseys, shirts, hats, collectibles, and more from defunct leagues and other teams in those leagues. From Play Classic Games, it's sports simulation board games. Just use the code SHN for 10% off your first order. From Thrive Fantasy, it's a daily fantasy sports and esports app for player props. Use the promo code SHN for instant 100% match up to $100. And with Mega Seats, they're tickets with no fees. You can save up to 10% with the code SHN. So check them out on the sportshistorynetwork.com sponsors page. That's sportshistorynetwork.com/sponsors. The soundtrack is provided by Kevin MacLeod of filmmusic.io.